While the crowd cheers, Daniel Kellner scans the arena anxiously, unable to enjoy the match. After a while, a Wardex agent named Casper Boyd arrives and has another agent take Daniel's backpack for inspection. Only after confirming that all the memory sticks are accounted for, Casper releases Daniel's girlfriend, Jane, who has no idea what is happening. After the exchange, Wardex CO Noah Scanlon asks who is really behind Daniel. He knows Daniel is just a tech guy, not the type to organize a revolution on his own. But at that moment, another agent reports that an alien device is missing. Daniel then pulls out the hidden device and threatens to activate it, forcing Noah's armed men to back down. Noah warns him that the world is not ready for the truth about aliens. Daniel does not care. He just takes back all the memory sticks and drives away with Jane. He then calls Hugo Wakefield and asks where to drop off the stolen memory sticks. But Hugo gives him another mission, explaining that Daniel's job is not only to steal the sticks but also to transport them. No matter how much Daniel tries to explain that he is not a field operative, Hugo simply smiles and tells him to hide somewhere secure. Jane is completely confused by everything happening around her and finally asks Daniel what his real job is. Daniel does not give her a direct answer. Instead, he tells her that they need to hide somewhere unexpected. Fortunately, Jane knows exactly such a place, a monastery. Meanwhile, back at the Wardex facility, Noah is being questioned by the Department of Defense, who want to know about the security leak. Worried that they might overreact if he explains everything himself, Noah assigns his own team to handle the situation. But then Casper arrives with even worse information. He quietly reports that 12 high-ranking employees failed to show up for work. Even worse, their director of biological assets, Hugo Wakefield, is among the missing, and the second alien device has also disappeared. Noah realizes his problem is far bigger than one rogue tech employee. Back at the monastery, Daniel is the one who becomes confused this time. Jane seems surprisingly familiar with the sisters, chatting with them as if she has known them for years. Later, the two finally sit down and decide that they need to be honest with each other. Jane explains that she was a novitiate at the monastery 3 years earlier, but eventually left after feeling that she had lost her calling. Daniel then admits that he was once imprisoned for cybercrime, and after being released, Wardex hired him to protect their data. But after discovering the truth behind what he was protecting, Daniel decided that he wanted to expose it to the public. He insists that he is not a thief, because what he stole is not something the government or a private organization like Wardex should be allowed to own in the first place. To him, it is something that belongs to everyone, like air and light, because it concerns all of humanity. Daniel still does not tell Jane exactly what the data contains. However, he explains enough for her to understand why he believes the truth must be revealed. In Kansas City, Jackson watches his girlfriend Margaret deliver the morning weather report over breakfast.
It's hail! Weather today!
Margaret becomes embarrassed and quickly closes his laptop. Jackson stands up and teases her, pointing out that she was wrong because there is no sign of hail anywhere. Margaret quickly changes the subject and asks if Jackson has watched her audition video yet. Jackson apologizes and immediately watches the footage, where Margaret presents a report about the possibility of a third world war with North Korea. No matter how much Jackson praises her performance, Margaret is still not satisfied with herself. She admits that she feels Kansas is not the right place for her and wants to move to another city again. Jackson, however, does not want to leave. He has finally started settling into life in Kansas, where he can focus on his music because he only needs to work 2 days a week at a bar. While he tries to comfort Margaret, a red bird suddenly flies into the apartment and stares directly at her. Margaret freezes and stares back at the bird until Jackson finally scares it away. Then counter leaves are changed. When Jackson talks to her again, Margaret suddenly responds in Russian.
Stop!
Jackson quickly asks her to stop speaking Russian, but Margaret has no idea why she is doing it and rushes out to work, leaving Jackson standing there in disbelief. On the way, Margaret is stopped for speeding. The officer, already in a bad mood, orders her out of the car despite her valid documents.
Just go ahead and step out of the car, please.
But when the officer takes off his sunglasses, Margaret suddenly understands what is troubling him. She tells him that he should buy a cake for his wife because the woman is exhausted from taking care of their baby and never meant to yell at him. After giving him a few more pieces of advice about his family, Margaret simply takes her papers back and leaves the confused officer standing there. When she arrives at the studio, things are already chaotic because the station is covering breaking news, leaving her only 90 seconds for her presentation. Margaret can barely concentrate. She even solves a translation problem with a South Korean researcher by speaking Korean.
전에도 이런 적 있어요?
네, 우리는 이러한 반복적인 행동 패턴을 물론 봅니다.
He's saying the actions are not justified. They're only familiar. There's this escalation. It follows a pattern. You don't hear
Since
him.
when do you speak Korean?
Speak Korean. What?
The strange part is that Margaret believes she is speaking English the entire time. When it is finally her turn to present the weather report, Margaret suddenly becomes absent-minded. Instead of speaking normally, she begins presenting the news in an unknown alien language.
Back to find out if you need to take your umbrella or your sun.
Before anyone can understand what is happening, she suddenly collapses unconscious right there on the stage. Meanwhile, outside the monastery, one of Hugo's men named Santiago arrives and honks his vehicle to wake Daniel and Jane. Daniel immediately tells Jane to stay behind at the monastery because it will be safer for her. But Jane refuses to listen and follows Daniel anyway. Santiago hadn't planned for an extra passenger, but he doesn't complain and takes them toward the outskirts, avoiding the Wardex agents. At the same time, back at the Wardex facility, the generals finally discover the truth and argue with Noah about bringing in the FBI. Noah immediately refuses. He does not want to hand their sensitive data over to the FBI, an organization that knows nothing about the existence of other beings. But before the argument can continue, he is informed about Margaret's sudden ability to speak alien languages. Now Noah has another reason to investigate the strange phenomenon. He orders his team to find and arrest Margaret before Hugo's people can reach her first. Back in Kansas, neither Margaret nor the doctors can understand what is happening to her. The medical tests provide no clear answer, but outside her room, Wardex agents disguised as FBI officers are already waiting. Margaret notices them and looks directly into their eyes. Almost immediately, she understands that they are not real FBI agents. She also somehow learns the name Daniel Kellner. Thinking quickly, she tells Jackson to pretend that he is escorting her to the bathroom, creating a chance to escape through another room. As soon as they get into the car, Margaret receives a call from Hugo, who admits that he has been waiting for her. Margaret immediately asks who Daniel is, but Hugo does not give her a direct answer. Instead, he tells her to go wherever her mind leads her and advises her to destroy the phone because it can be used to locate her. Then he hangs up.
What are you doing?
Oh my God! You missed it again. Oh my God. Okay. Go forward. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, let's go.
Where?
North. Oh my God! What is that sound?
Your hailstorm.
Hugo's team is secretly building a replica of a house for Margaret, while Santiago follows Hugo's instructions and takes Daniel and Jane to hide in a remote house. There, Daniel stares blankly at deer outside the window. Jane eventually loses patience, pulls the curtain closed, and pressures him to finally explain what is inside the data he stole. Daniel finally stops hiding the truth and shows her everything. The files contain shocking evidence, including footage of President Richard Nixon secretly taking his friend, actor Jackie Gleason, to Homestead Air Force Base in 1973 to show him alien bodies. They also contain Wardex's own secret videos showing experiments and dissections performed on captured aliens. Jane is horrified by what she sees.
I need cerebrospinal fluid. Advance the needle, please. Negative. No anesthesia. We've got that way. Do it now.
Meanwhile, Noah uses the remaining alien device and attempts to control Daniel's mind. But nothing happens. Daniel remains completely unaffected and continues arguing with Jane. Jane points out that if the truth about aliens becomes known to the public, it could destroy people's understanding of religion and cause human civilization to become completely unhinged. Daniel does not argue with her any further. Instead, he says that he needs to contact Hugo and walks outside. That is when Noah decides to try controlling Jane instead. This time it works. Jane suddenly falls under Noah's control, and an illusion created from her own mind appears and begins questioning her. But Jane's subconscious finds a way to fight back. She tightly grips the cord of the cross necklace in her hand, using the pain to help herself regain consciousness. Noah feels the pain as well, but he manages to regain control and tighten his hold over her again. However, unable to resist him, Jane eventually reveals the location of the monastery and the direction their car took.
Did you see a sign for a town after that?
Sykesville.
Sykesville. Do you remember the name of the road?
It was a dirt road.
And found it. Ash Hollow Road. Target is a farmhouse.
Outside, Daniel is talking to Hugo on the phone when Hugo sends him Margaret's video. Daniel watches it in confusion. While ordinary people hear Margaret speaking in an alien language, Daniel clearly hears her speaking English. Hugo finally confirms that Daniel is the human chosen by the aliens. But Hugo refuses to explain what that actually means. He simply hangs up again, leaving Daniel standing outside and wondering why Margaret's video was sent to him in the first place. At that exact moment, Margaret somehow senses that Jane is in danger and urgently calls Daniel to warn him.
Who is this?
Do not go back to the house.
But Jackson believes Margaret is calling random people in her confused state. He becomes frightened, snatches the phone from her, and hangs up. Still, Margaret's warning comes just in time. Daniel notices Wardex vehicles approaching the house. Daniel sneaks past the agents from behind and steals one of their cars. Instead of simply driving away, he turns the car around, crashes it into the house, and picks up Jane. As the agents chase after them, Jane is still under Noah's control and suddenly pulls out a knife, trying to kill Daniel. But when Jane sees her own reflection on the blade, something inside her mind begins to fight back. Her subconscious helps her regain control, and in the struggle, Jane stabs her own palm, using the pain to break Noah's hold over her and knock him unconscious. The agents manage to shoot out their tires, but one of their cars crashes into a bridge and blocks the road behind them. Daniel quickly changes direction and tries to find another way out, only to realize that they have reached the edge of a cliff. With the agents' cars still following from a distance, Jane suddenly gets an idea and sends the car straight off the cliff. When the agents finally arrive at the scene, they see no sign of Daniel or Jane and assume that both of them have died in the crash. Meanwhile, on the way north, Margaret and Jackson stop at a gas station. The entire place is filled with panic as people prepare to leave, believing that World War III is about to begin. Margaret looks into Jackson's eyes and asks whether he would stay behind if she decided to leave. Jackson simply says that he needs some water and walks into the store. While Jackson secretly calls the hospital for help, Margaret takes the car herself and heads to find Daniel on her own. At a motel called Indiana, Daniel is on the phone with Hugo while Jane takes a shower. Hugo gives Daniel his next assignment. The following day, Daniel must go to a specific location called KCXE, the television station where Margaret works. Unfortunately, Jane overhears the conversation. While she is still inside the bathroom, Daniel quickly tries to erase every clue that could reveal where they are staying. He removes the motel name from the cards and keys and clears it from the phone as well. Realizing what Daniel is doing, Jane asks him to tie her to the bedstead so that she cannot hurt him if Noah takes control of her again. Before doing so, Daniel asks her what she heard. He shows her the video of Margaret speaking the strange alien language. Jane admits that she cannot understand any of it. Daniel then shows her the mathematical calculations he has made while studying the alien language. He explains that he can understand those strange words because his brain automatically solves the patterns using mathematics and translates them into English. Later that night, Jane wakes up under Noah's control once again and begins searching for clues about where they are staying. Daniel has carefully erased almost every trace of the motel, but he makes one mistake. He forgets to remove the mathematical notes that contain the motel's name. Just in time, Santiago arrives at the motel to pick them up. But before he can even honk, Wardex vehicles suddenly rush into the area, and agents begin breaking into the rooms one by one. Daniel and Jane try to escape through the back, but the agents catch Daniel. Jane manages to get away, carrying the alien device with her.
It's not here.
Where's the device?
Daniel is taken to an Air Force base in Excelsior, where Noah is waiting for him with several questions. He wants to know where the alien device is, what Hugo is planning, and where they are hiding. Meanwhile, Margaret taps into Daniel's memories and follows his path. Using her ability to read people's minds, she easily passes through several security checkpoints and reaches the command room without anyone stopping her. Everyone inside, including Daniel, is shocked to see her and cannot understand how she managed to get there. When Noah tries to pull Margaret away, she looks directly into his eyes and takes control of his mind. Noah suddenly sees her as his late wife. Even when Casper tries to drag her away, Noah stops him and allows Margaret to do whatever she wants. Finally, Margaret and Daniel lock eyes, and both feel they have met before. Casper quietly orders his agents to stop them, but none of them can do anything. Every agent who tries to interfere falls under Margaret's control. They remain fully conscious, but they are completely unable to stop the two.
What did you see?
My wife.
As Daniel and Margaret travel toward Kansas City, they begin sharing their experiences with their strange supernatural abilities. During their conversation, they discover that they have something else in common, a red cardinal bird. Daniel has seen the same bird since he was 20. Since then, his mind has been able to decode mathematical patterns no one else can see. But before Daniel can fully explain what he means, Margaret already knows what he is thinking. In the middle of their conversation, Casper suddenly appears behind them and tries to force their car into the path of an approaching train. Daniel and Margaret quickly try to escape, but the car gets caught on the train, dragging them along as another train approaches from the opposite direction. Fortunately, they narrowly avoid being crushed between the two trains. However, the experience leaves Margaret shaking uncontrollably, and she begins suffering from symptoms that look like Parkinson's disease. Daniel quickly grabs her hands and places them on the strings of a piano, helping her regain control of herself. At the same time, Hugo suddenly suffers a severe headache. He realizes that Noah is trying to control his mind, so Hugo orders his team outside and confronts Noah's illusion. Noah tries to convince Hugo that all this is happening because of the escaped alien known as Envivo 17. He argues that the aliens are not acting for the benefit of humanity and are simply using Hugo for their own purposes. But Hugo refuses to accept this. He argues that compassion is part of human evolution, and if humanity suppresses that part of itself, humans could eventually become extinct. He believes that since the aliens are far more advanced and almost godlike compared to humans, there is no reason to fear them. Noah immediately counters that he is not afraid of the aliens. What truly frightens him is humanity itself, because once the public learns the truth, people could become chaotic and impossible to control. Hugo interrupts him and argues that Noah is treating the public like children. He reminds Noah that ordinary people are also capable of thinking for themselves and deciding what they can handle. While the two continue arguing, two of Hugo's team members unknowingly enter the area and expose themselves to Noah. Without wasting any time, the Wardex team begins tracking them. From a diner, Jane contacts the sister and asks whether it is possible that humans are God's greatest creation. The sister explains that according to Genesis, humans are considered the supreme creation on Earth, but the universe is endless, so there could still be many other creations beyond their world. She admits that she would not be shocked if other forms of creation exist somewhere in the universe. She reminds Jane that aliens wouldn't make them doubt God. They might only expose how religion has been twisted by the people who control it. Jane finally feels relieved by the explanation and asks the sister to help her find out what the word KCXE means. Elsewhere, Daniel and Margaret encounter a fox that stops and stares directly at them. But before they can think much about it, two fire trucks suddenly pull over behind them. Fortunately, the firefighters turn out to be Hugo's men. After making sure Daniel and Margaret are not under anyone's mind control, they escort the two safely toward the city. Since the vehicles are allowed to pass freely, they quickly reach their planned destination. However, Margaret is shocked to see an exact replica of her childhood home. Several people gather around the place, looking at Margaret almost as if she is some kind of messiah. But Margaret does not want to become part of anything like this, so she quickly runs inside the house. Everything inside is exactly as she remembers it, including small details such as where her pencils were kept and where the photographs were placed. Hugo finally explains why they brought her there. He wants Margaret to access a childhood memory that she has spent years trying to block out, hoping that her memories will help them understand the truth about the extraterrestrial beings. At first, Margaret cannot accept everything that is suddenly happening around her and continues refusing to cooperate. But Hugo explains that Margaret has the ability to understand other people's minds, while Daniel has a different gift that allows him to understand the universal language of mathematics. Realizing that their abilities may be connected to something that happened in their childhood, both Margaret and Daniel finally agree to discover the truth about their past. Hugo hands them another alien device and uses it to send them back into their childhood memories. As a young Margaret lies on her bed singing, for figures disguised as a deer, bird, fox, and raccoon suddenly pass through the wall. They take Margaret away and bring her to a house hidden deep in the woods, almost like something from the fairy tale of Hansel and Gretel. But Margaret soon discovers that she is not alone. Daniel is already there, crying. Margaret reaches for his hand and comforts him, telling him not to be afraid. Together, the two children receive an infusion of power from the aliens. Just as they begin discovering the truth about what happened to them in the past, Wardex forces arrive at the warehouse. Noah and his team enter the building, but they find nobody there. Using a heat-sensing device, they detect around 40 people inside, yet none of them can actually be seen. The reason is that Margaret is using the alien device to make everyone invisible. She quietly orders Hugo's team to escape while they still have the chance. Hearing footsteps, Noah sends his agents forward to search the building. But because they cannot see anything, the confused agents begin bumping into the house and even crash into a fire truck. Then the fire truck siren suddenly goes off. Convinced the building is haunted, the agents flee in panic. Hugo's team successfully escapes, but the alien device has been used too much and finally breaks down. Afterward, Margaret's team storms into the television station, and she immediately takes control of the studio chief, taking over the entire broadcast. While Margaret prepares a news story that is far more important than the coming World War III, Daniel gets ready to transmit all the stolen data from the memory sticks. Meanwhile, Ward X agents also arrive at the station. Instead of launching a visible raid to stop Hugo's plan, Noah orders his agents to split up and cut the power lines. Once the entire station loses power, the agents move inside and prepare to arrest everyone. But Jane is with the group, and she quickly hands the alien device to Margaret. Margaret immediately activates it, restoring the power and taking control of Noah's mind once again. Noah sits quietly without giving any orders, leaving the Ward X agents completely confused about what they should do next. With the threat temporarily neutralized, Margaret and Daniel continue with their plan. They begin broadcasting secrets that have been hidden for nearly 80 years, starting with the 1947 Roswell incident. At first, the major news networks suspect that the broadcast might be AI-generated. But after checking the footage and realizing it is genuine, they abandon the upcoming World War III coverage and switch to Margaret's broadcast as breaking news. Within moments, the story reaches television screens around the world.
No hay ninguna explicación.
We are seeing this for the first time. It is unclear if this is an official government disclosure or Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, 1965. It's apparently another crash site with military. There's a
38. Roll 38.
If you are watching this, if you are seeing this, you are not alone.
Just in time, Hugo brings the escaped alien in Vivo 17 into the live broadcast studio, allowing the entire world to see that the alien is still alive. The aging alien slowly stands and speaks directly to Daniel. Daniel listens carefully, translates the alien's words, and passes the message to Margaret. Margaret then returns to the camera and prepares to tell the entire world what the alien has come to say.
Listen.